I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, December the 6th, brought to you in part by Joplin Regional Stockyards. Expecting around 10,000 head of cattle here for the regular Monday feeder cattle auction. Included in there is going to be over 40 straight pot loads of yearlings. These yearlings are getting really short. And when you see them, you better get them if you want something that'll feed pretty good for you. Including in those yearlings, they're going to have one big long string, 640 head, all black grass steers and one crack. So you want to get on the dvauction.com if you can't get to the barn and watch those cattle come through the ring. You can call into Joplin there and get approved so you can bid on them. They had a big value-added sale last Thursday. Got along really good. According to Federal State Market News, the program calves that they sold on Thursday were $4 to $9 higher than Monday's regular sale last week. Now the market was coming to them, of course, so that made it a little bit easier for that to happen, but those cattle are just worth more. Of course, they were selling in bigger drafts and larger too, but you know, those value-added sales are a good way to market your cattle. But go to JRS or JoplinStockyards.com and check out their schedule for more value-added sales that are coming up, and don't forget that big feeder cattle sale that they're having here on Monday. We got a festive spirit here as we get into the meat of December now. This market's been really good. I know we seem like we complain about the market all the time and whine and bitch and moan about it all the time, but this market's really good on all classes of cattle. You know, we always would like to have it pumped up a little more. The cows and bulls in some places are not selling the very best, but they've just been marketing so many of them at you know, a supply and demand. But the supply and demand of our fat steers and heifers are definitely in the cattle feeders' favor. We've got tight supplies of market ready cattle. Your packers are short bought. They've found themselves hand to mouth. They're just having to give $2 to $4 more every single week, and they continue to do it. Don't let up on them. Just keep boring it to them, guys. You remember how things get whenever the supply's on the other hand. You know, whenever they got way more cattle than they need, and they got all their needs met, and you're sitting there with cattle you need to sell and can't get a bid, can't even get them to talk to you. Just don't let up. That's the way this deal is supposed to work. So you just keep going. Now, there's going to be several of you that are going to be tempted by the basis early this week to puke your fats. Don't do it to the rest of the industry. Our board was down pretty hard on feeder cattle, of course, on Friday, but your live cattle board did not realize the gain that we saw in your cash market, so it was pretty much just unchanged. But now we're setting to start the week off here. Anyway, with who knows what's going to happen on Monday, but the Monday your cattle futures like to go down pretty well. But we're 137.5, just a little bit better than that. That's a hell of a long ways from 142. But you know, if you get more, if you just hold off of that basis for a while, get more for your fat cattle, then your basis is going to be better yet. So just hold off if you can. It'll be better for the industry and yourself for the long haul if you can just resist basis jumping here early in the week and wait till your packers start coming to you again like they have for the last month or so. But like I said, really festive spirit. Everybody's in a good mood. These feeder cattle are selling good. The calves are selling good. Everything's going real well. You know, the rodeo's going on. You're going to be missing people in your sale barns all around the industry this week, because people are going to be going out to Las Vegas to watch the National Finals Rodeo. Get old like me. That party that they have during the middle of the week is just about rank enough for me, and I'm going to be going out in the middle of this week. Headed out on Tuesday, staying till Friday whenever I head to Rapid City or out to the Black Hills for the big cattle market power hour that's going to be at St. Ange Livestock, St. Ange, South Dakota on Friday evening there, and then they'll continue with the U.S. Cattlemen's Association annual conference there in Spearfish, South Dakota on Saturday. So hope to see a lot of you guys there. But the weather's been really mild this fall so far, and it's been really dry. Which, if you've heard me say that before, I say, the late fall and the winter is a really good time to have a drought if you're going to have one. But we're starting to get kind of scared here that we may be heading off into a really, really dry winter, and it's not looking very good. I was out in eastern New Mexico at Reverse Rock and R sale. They had a really good sale there with some top genetics there over the weekend. And we were standing out there looking at the cattle, and you look at those mountains that run over there, where Red River and Eagle's Nest and all that are, and there was not any glimpse of any white on the tops of those mountains. And talking to my friend Cody Johnson that was there taking bids, he was telling me about Denver, and I was looking at it. Denver is headed off into December this year for the first time ever, without any measurable snowfall so far through the fall. That's the first time ever. And that's scary, because they've been keeping records there for a long, long time. And they're about around 230 straight days with no measurable snowfall in Denver. And that's pressing on a 134-year record. And I thought the climate change, I figured 134 years you just had to wear a parka 8 months out of the year in Denver, because we've warmed up so much. But I guess all the way back in the 1880s, you ran upon these droughts too, and warm weather and dry conditions. But gosh dang, that's tough. If we don't get some measurable snowfall, and like we said, probably going to get hammered this spring. Whenever that happens, you really get hammered in the spring, but got to get some measurable snowfalls up in those altitudes so that you can have some creek water, some river water, and some irrigation later on in the year. But hopefully things kind of change around here a little bit. But it has been really, really hot here in the Texas Panhandle, running in the 70s about every day. There's a little front moving in on Sunday night here, and I think Monday's going to be cool, but right back in the 60s and 70s for the remainder of the week. And not only was it kind of a pain for the guys that are out hunting deer, and they're sweating, and after they shoot one, they go to packing around on them. They wonder how much they really like the deer hunting, in the heat, but and they don't have a lot of time to get something done with that meat that most of them really don't want anyway. But it's been an unseasonably warm and dry fall, and we really need to get some measurable moisture somehow. But let's look at your board for last week on your cattle futures. December live cattle futures. Monday was down $1.17. Tuesday down $1.05. Wednesday things started turning around there whenever we were kind of fearful that we had lost the rally, but then by mid to late week your packers came in and really showed how short bought they are. Wednesday we were up 12 cents on December live cattle futures. Thursday up $1.65. Friday up just 2 cents. And your December live cattle futures ended the week at 137.67. Like I mentioned a while ago, that was down 43 cents for the week. February contracts are still off. They ended the week at 138.95. That was down $2.25 when your cash fat cattle market was up $2.50 to $3. Now that's a little bit ridiculous. And a lot of them people that trade in those markets in Chicago, they couldn't even tell you anything about the contract or even any fundamental measurements or what needs to go this way to make the other go that way or anything. They're just jostling around with numbers and using it as a commodity. Yeah, the squiggly lines on the chart may say that this thing is overbought, but as far as cash goes, it's undervalued. You go out to April, this April, and your live cattle futures at 142.15. Next April, 146.45. So we're going to keep this thing a little bit higher, it looks like, as we go forward. But we need to get cash and the futures more in line with what's going on. January feeder cattle, Monday was down $1.42, Tuesday down 87, and then things kind of switched around on your feeder cattle too. Wednesday was up 97 cents, but then Thursday down a nickel, and Friday down hard, down 165, with January feeder cattle ending the week at 164.12, still trading at a several dollar premium to what cash feeders are bringing in your sale barns, even though they're selling really well. You know that we can't match that. But January feeder cattle contracts were down a little over $3, $3.03 for the week. March contracts 167.10, down just 87 cents. Your fat cattle trade last week through Thursday in your 5 area feeding region, 91,200 head. That's a little bit more than they had the previous week up through Thursday. So really good movement there, and you see how that kind of works together. More negotiated pure cash trade, and then a better market, more competition. That's why we've been fighting so hard for the last 2 or 3 years to get a mandate for minimum negotiated cash trade. We're going to be talking about that at U.S. Cattlemen's Association Conference this coming weekend, and if you guys can get there to Spearfish, South Dakota, get online and register for that and show up. You don't have to be a member. That's why we're having it, is to get more members. So just get on there and register and come. We got plenty of room. How about up through Thursday, our live steers and heifers sold with a range from 135 to 142.50. But that 135 was real early in the week. Some weak sisters at basis jumped right there. It was mostly 138 to 142.50 by the time we got from middle of the week, and for sure Wednesday on through the end of the week, 138 to 42.50, and that'd be $2.50 to $3 higher than the previous week. Your weighted average on live steers last week up through Thursday was 140.46, about $2.50 higher than the same time the previous week. But dress sales, steers and heifers ranged from 217 to 221. Really light on dress sales. Didn't have a lot of dress trade, but it was $2 to $5 higher. And your dress steer weighted average for last week up through Thursday was 219.96, almost 220, guys. That's straight up $4 higher than it was the previous week. We had a little bit of trade on Friday, so these numbers are going to be larger, and it's going to change your weighted averages a little bit whenever we get the results that come back here on Monday late, and I'll have on our next visit. But Colorado had about 100 head that sold on Friday, about 3,000 head for the week, all at 142 on Friday. Iowa only about 300 head on Friday, 30,800 head for the week. Live sales on Friday from 138 to 140. Nebraska 3,300 head confirmed on Friday, and a little over 31,000 for the week. Live sales on Friday 140 to 142.5. Kansas and Texas both had about 300 head confirmed on Friday. Kansas moved almost 20,000 last week up through Thursday. Texas a little over 10,000. Both of them selling cattle all at 142 on Friday. Really good market, guys. Box beef cutout values were down pretty hard last week. Your weighted average on all of last week's sales on choice cuts, 273.17, down 608 compared to the previous week's weighted average. But your ending price on Friday afternoon was a little bit higher than that, so it's kind of on the upswing, 274.36 on Friday afternoon. Selects the opposite, 259.43, which was down 360 on your weighted average on all of last week's sales, but your late Friday sales were about $1 cheaper than that. So they're kind of going in opposite directions as we're getting into the full bore Christmas buying season on your meat, what they're going to serve up right through the holiday meals. They want the better stuff. They want the choice. Slaughter, 676,000 for last week. That's the big kill that we've been looking for. That's big time. We're killing 675,000 or better. I mean, you're running them plants wide open, and had a really good harvest last week. Couldn't measure it with the previous week because of Thanksgiving, but compared to the same week a year ago, that was up 7,000. So pretty darn good. Let's talk about what else is going on. Call my buddy Steve Hashey at Hashi Insurance. He and his son John run Hashi Insurance. They're pretty well diversified in it. Their main deal is crop insurance, been doing that for a long time. They've got all kinds of life insurance scenarios you can look at, and a way to invest your money in life insurance, and then you can borrow it back from yourself if you need some money to operate your business or your farm or ranch or whatever. They also do the livestock policies. We've already run out on the drought policy, but still got the livestock risk protection policy. So get on to HashiInsurance.com or go to their Facebook page and get more information about Hashi Insurance. How about your feeder cattle markets? Don't forget this week we've got some big online sales that we do through DV Auction, but they're back east there. But if you're looking some really good cattle, Mid-Atlantic cattle sales in North Carolina there, they've got about 30 lots on their video auction. That's going to be Tuesday, 1 o'clock Eastern or noon Central Time. Get on there. You can go on there and view those cattle early. It's got information. You can call people and talk to them and get some more information about those Mid-Atlantic cattle right there. And then on Wednesday, Abington Feeder Cattle Association's got their VQA tele-auction. That's Virginia Quality Assurance there. You can talk to Butch Foster if you need to find out some more information about those cattle. But that tele-auction is going to be on DV Auction Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern or 6 o'clock Central right there. How about your real-time index? Ended the week at 159.28 based on an 800-pound steer. Now that was $2.02 lower than the end of last week, and all of our feeder cattle markets were higher. And you think, what gives on that? There's just not any yearlings left, guys. You know, I said they had 40 loads in Joplin. There'll be some featured in all of your bigger high volume sales, but just not very many of them. Those hard old crop yearlings are just vanishing. They've already been bought up and put on feed, and so we're not seeing the big prices as much on those cattle weighing from 7 to 899 pounds that make up the real-time index and your cash feeder cattle index. And we're getting more and more of the new crop calves in there weighing over 700 pounds. They're awful fancy and they look pretty good, but they're fleshy for the most part, and they're not going to feed nearly as well as those yearlings, and they're not bringing the big price. So we're seeing that index come back down, and so our feeder cattle, especially the January contract, it's bound to go down some more because it needs to kind of stay in the same ballpark with it. But let's talk about your cash feeder trends last week in your sale barns. Yearlings sold firm to $4 higher. Not sure how much higher we can sell them. Every day for the last 2 or 3 weeks we just see prices that surprise us a little bit higher than what we've seen for a long time. So that's great. But like I said, we're running out of these yearlings, and these long backgrounded calves, your heavier calves that have been weaned, especially weaned and turned out, are almost as good as a yearling, and we're going to see more and more of those coming up, especially as we're getting closed up here on the harvest, and especially those guys that raise those really fancy calves up in the northern plains and the Midwest. They're going to be parking those combines and getting them all blowed off and washed up good, and then they'll be ready to get busy back in their cattle business. But calves sold $3 to $8 higher because a lot of those guys are nearing the end of harvest if they're not already done yet, and they're coming in and buying some of those cattle to background. And but really good prices late last week. Look at Fort Scott, Kansas there, and that's way out there on the east side. But Fort Scott, they've got a really good sale. Look at these loads and multi-load drafts that come through the sale. It's a Saturday sale. I mean, all of these are very impressive. They had a really good sale there on Saturday, but the most impressive quote I see is the last one at the bottom. 122 head, 796, or same as 800-pound steers, bring 167.10. Wow. How about Verdigris Stockyards, Verdigris, Nebraska? 54 head, 694-pound steer calves, bring $177. Now I'm going to go on the opposite catty corner part of Nebraska that's up there not very far from St. Joe stockyards, and they getting a lot of the cattle that used to go to the stockyards in St. Joe before they closed it. But 3 state stockyards there in Fall City, Nebraska. The Witt brothers there, they sell big long strings in there too, and they sold the Hermish brothers cattle 495 head of 866 pound steers in one whack, bring 163 and a quarter. Now that was last Thursday. But Hubert Gregory, who always sold at the St. Joe stockyards, or I say always, he was a regular seller there. Barry Bose, my good friend, my old commission agent there, he's up at 3 state stockyards there and in Nebraska. He's also over in Gallatin, Missouri for his Missouri customers. But Hubert Gregory sold 130 head, 906 pound steers, and 168 and a quarter in Fall City, Nebraska. How about Crawford Livestock Market, Crawford, Nebraska? That's on Friday. 103 head, 612 pound steers, bring 197.85. Can you believe that? They called them fancy. I mean, how fancy could they be? I guess they had diamonds in their ass, but my goodness, that's a big price. But still not the biggest quote that I saw. In your Zactran top quote for the day for late last week come out of Lexington, Nebraska, at Lexington Livestock Market. 78 head, 723 pound fancy steers, bring 181 and a quarter. That's your feeder flash for Monday.